Now before I started this challenge, I expected it to go similarly to my Xenoblade 2 version, but boy was I wrong. But before we go into that, let's play a game. What level do you think the party will be at by the time I reach the final boss? Now keep that answer to yourself, or if you're feeling really daring, put your answer in the comments below. So if you've seen the video where I attempt this challenge in Xenoblade 2, then you'll already know how this works. But for those that don't, then today I'm going to be playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but after each battle, the party drops a level, starting from 99. Now as you might expect, the early game goes by in a flash, but I wasn't sure whether to count the fights in the prologue, as since you don't collect any experience to level up, then there should be no reason to have them level you down, but I figured that it wouldn't make too much difference, so I decided to include them. Now going through Chapter 1 there were only 4 battles, meaning that things are still going to be easy for a while, and even with Chapter 2 containing 11 battles, I wasn't too worried. However, that was until Chapter 3, when this happened. Oh. So I was genuinely caught off guard by this, as I forgot how many Arachno we'd be facing. Luckily though, although the first encounter drops our party by 8 levels, during the Arachno Queen fight, it's fortunate that you only need to beat the Queen herself, otherwise the party would be dropping another 14 levels. Now something that Xenoblade 1 does a lot of is having fights end prematurely. Now I've decided not to include these battles in the running total, and as we'll find out towards the end game, that decision was ultimately for the best. However, this does mean that some of the later chapters only have 1 or sometimes even 0 full battles. And while we're on the subject of weird things from Xenoblade 1, I find it funny how on New Game Plus, because I've been able to have Shulk use the Junk Sword skin, the Monado's glowing effect isn't hidden, instead just leading to weird cutscene moments like this one. Anyway, with that tangent over, Chapter 4 only had 3 battles and Chapter 5 had 12, leaving us at level 52, and we get a brief pause following with Chapters 6 and 7, as they only contain 1 and 4 battles respectively, with things not starting to pick up again until Chapter 8, as with 15 battles, this places the chapter second for the highest number of encounters, and I wonder if you can guess what chapter is going to take first. Now it's on to Chapter 9 though, that the run takes an interesting turn. So Chapter 9 only has 1 battle, the Sky Ray. But as you can see on the left, ignoring Metal Face, I've listed an Otol Kromar. This is because on the way to activate the gate to Prison Island, a recurring strategy I've been using was baiting out the enemy and then running back to their spawn so I could press the once guarded switch before they returned and their aggro reset. And doing this method worked about 95% of the time. But it's this group of Kromar that I fear that this method may have been impossible on, as from the way they were arranged, it was impossible to get close enough to the switch without setting them off. The way I pulled this off, however, was by pure luck, as on one instance of being chased, the gang of Kromar managed to push the Otol off the edge of the platform, meaning I was able to successfully get behind them and press the button. Now because I didn't technically fight the Kromar, I haven't counted it in the total, but I felt it was important to mention. The second significant moment from the chapter was the battle with the Sky Ray itself, as this battle marked the moment in which I had to switch from normal mode to casual mode. However, I will say this fight is 100% possible as I almost managed it, but I messed up big time by accidentally using Battle Soul when I meant to use Air Slash. And although turning on casual mode was inevitable, I'm sure you could keep the run going a bit longer before future battles become literally impossible. Anyway, moving on, everything stays calm for the next big stretch of the run, with chapters 10, 11, 12 and 13 only containing a total of 12 battles, with chapter 13 being the first chapter to have 0, tying it with one other future chapter for having the lowest battle count. Now it's at this point I should probably put things into perspective, as at the end of chapter 13, the party is currently standing at level 19. And without spoiling anything from my Xenoblade 2 video, my level never went this low, and thinking about how we still had 4 more chapters to go, I was beginning to panic, as even with casual mode enabled, the battles were starting to become increasingly harder, and no amount of praying to M76 Moist would prove otherwise. It especially didn't help that I wasn't getting anywhere near enough XP to level up. However, chapter 14 was the first chapter where this occurred, so I wonder if all this new info has thrown off anybody's guess yet. Now chapter 14 had 9 battles, meaning the party was currently level 11. The fights had all devolved into these tiring, sometimes half-hour long bouts, where one slip up could cost everything, but still, I moved forwards. Chapter 15 though, marks the start of many issues. It also had 9 battles, however this probably could have been cut down to 5, as during the Yaldabaoth fight, the only way I was able to beat it was by taking out the summoned Mechon. It is worth mentioning though, that unlike in Xenoblade 2, my party was not optimal by any means, so perhaps most of the difficulty could have been avoided, but regardless, at the end of this chapter, the party was level 3. Oh, and while I'm at it, eagle-eye viewers would probably have noticed that Ryan is the only party member at level 3. This is because, unfortunately, expert mode does not allow you to lower characters' level below than what they are introduced at, so the rule I set for myself is that I always had to have the lowest level party at all times, which meant I was stuck with Shulk, Ryan and Sharla unless the game said otherwise. In the endgame now, chapter 16 had 0 battles, answering the question of what other chapter would tie for last, and then it's fitting that up next, Chapter 17 wins the award for containing the most amount of battles. Although at this point, it doesn't mean much, as after the initial Telethia fights, we're going to be at level 1 throughout the remainder of the game anyway. So if at the start of this video, you guessed that I'd be level 1 by the time I got to Zanza, then congratulations! I know full well I didn't expect this result, especially since I wasn't able to actually beat the challenge. Did I say that out loud? Okay, so let me explain. I got all the way to Dragon King Ulcar, but I couldn't do it. I gave the battle probably over 50 tries, but it didn't matter what I attempted, it never seemed to work. I then resolved myself to see if this one battle was a fluke, but no. Dixon also proved to be too tough to beat, but determined to see this through, I kept going. I was able to beat all the spirits, but unfortunately, in the final confrontation, I wasn't able to get Zanza past the first phase. Now, as I mentioned before, my party loadout was not optimal, so I wholeheartedly believe this challenge is doable, and one day I'd love to come back and try these fights again. But if anyone watching this video would like to try this out for themselves, please let me know how it went in the comments below. So on that unfortunate note, if you like what I'm doing here, subscribe, and as always... Oh no! Zanza!